The Gospel of Mark. Haughty or humble. Mark 2:17. Hello. In our last video, we learned about the Pharisees, the scribes, and their history. It started 200 years before Jesus was born here on earth. They looked down as people as sinners, including Jesus. Jesus a sinner? Wow. Why did they do that? Jesus did not follow their rules. Their rule was that eating with sinners was prohibited. Jesus wanted to eat with sinners. That's why the scribes and Pharisees labeled Jesus a sinner. And the scribes of the Pharisees, when they saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, said to his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Mark 2:16. Now Jesus, of course, he heard what these religious leaders were saying, and he responded to them. And when Jesus heard it, he said to them, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." Mark 2:17. Wow, we read there, Jesus was saying to the religious leaders, "You Pharisees and scribes, you think you are righteous, you are holy. That's fine. You don't need my help. I'm a physician. I'm a doctor. I came here, meaning I came here for sinners. My business is with them. There's no one holy. All have sinned. I am a doctor here. I am at this place to heal the sick. I am with the guilty, the miserable sinners." That's what Jesus wanted to inform these religious leaders. Jesus did not like it that their work in their life was just sacrifices to God. Jesus didn't like that. God saw their sacrifices, that they were outward things. They meant nothing. They weren't from their hearts. Their hearts were full of sin. They were full of pride themselves. God wanted to give mercy to those who sinned, those who were humble. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. Matthew 9:13. That verse that we just read in Matthew talks about mercy and sacrifice. It's not the same as the way that Mark or Luke records this same story. Jesus was borrowing language from the Old Testament, from Hosea. "For I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice." Hosea 6:6a. Now, Jesus, he went to preach and teach, the same as the Old Testament. That's why Jesus was borrowing the language of the Old Testament. The scribes, the Pharisees, they had lots of biblical knowledge of the Old Testament, but they did not grasp the ugly truth about themselves. They were sinners too. They felt that they did not need to be saved from their sins. That's a problem. They were self-righteous. They thought of themselves as sinless. They depended on their sacrifices, the things that they did. This was a sacrifice of filthy rags. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a polluted garment. Isaiah 64:6. It's easy for anyone today who thinks that he is holy, that he doesn't sin. It's easy for him to compare himself to other ones and say, "Oh, they sin, but I don't," and look down on others. That's exactly the way that the scribes and the Pharisees did. It's just the same. Are you like that? Or are you humble, knowing, yes, I'm a sinner, and that you need a Savior. Which? Coram Deo.
To live coram Deo is to live one's entire life in the presence of God, under the authority of God, to the glory of God. Everyday Breadcrumbs, Devotional Studies for the Deaf by Brad and Tammy Schaaf, taught in American Sign Language by Brad with voiceover by his wife Tammy. All verses from English Standard Version. BradDaleSchaaf@gmail.com